Killer on a White Horse, A Story of the Evening Watchman by Ned Dahan. The audiobook, made available on BlackBoxOnlineRadio. Please consider supporting this program at BuyMeACoffee.com/BlackBoxNed88. There's a link in the description box. Chapter 23. There was a tapping on the Mazda glass window. Barry's eyes opened. The sky was a haze, one which he could not decipher. Everything was a blur, and it did not appear to get clearer in any quick fashion. Where was Joanna? Where was the broken glass? Where were the messages from the rocks that had flown into the windows? The tapping on the Mazda sounded louder. Barry looked around, and at last he saw two things: the darkness of the black night sky, and the flashing of police sirens. What on earth was going on? He was back at the warehouse. He was seated in the front seat of his car. Barry tried to regain his composure again. Had it all been a dream? Had he fallen asleep at work? He had never done that before. He was a watchman, and he felt proud of his ability to stay alert. He did not feel as if he had just dozed off. Instead, he felt as if a load of oversized bricks had fallen on his head. The kind of drowsiness one experiences after they've been knocked out from excessive medication or drinking too much alcohol. Barry hadn't had a drink in ages. "So, looks like someone is asleep on the job," one of the voices called. Barry looked up and saw 3 police officers, all men, standing over him. He thought one of them was the officer that had visited him last week, but he could barely see straight. "Is this the watchman?" The same voice kept calling. What's going on?" Barry asked. "Where's Joanna? Where's the chocolate card, the broken window, and the notes, and the banana rice, and what is the—" It had all been a dream. Joanna, in her white apron, eating banana rice, then rocks flying through the windows, with a message about Senator Elizabeth Tong. Of course it had. How did Barry fall asleep on the job? "Wakey, wakey," the voice kept taunting him. "Sorry," Barry coughed out. "Yeah, we came by and we found you napping," the officer mocked him as the other 2 laughed along. "You see, we talked to Ross Barrister. He's in charge of this warehouse. He told us about you, the unarmed security guard. He said you were reliable." The laughter continued. I don't feel well," Barry regurgitated. "You give Ross Barrister a call, why don't ya?" The officer laughed again. "He has some words for you." The 3 laughing officers walked away and moved into their cruisers. Now that Barry was waking up, he felt a sense of the dream and the ideas coming into place. He knew that this world and dreamland were not the same. He could see Joanna so vividly in his mind. He could see her wearing that black lingerie under the white apron. He wanted that moment back. He wanted it to be real. But now Barry had fallen asleep. All he did was drink coffee, tea, and Diet Cola at the job site. In 2 years he had never fallen asleep. What on earth had happened? Barry glanced at the Kyocera smartphone, and he saw 3 missed calls from Ross Barrister, his supervisor. Barry hit the call button, and it went through. "Hello?" Ross's rough voice sounded over the phone. "Hi, Ross. It's me, Barry," he began. "I know who it is," Ross barked back. "This is not good, Barry. Taking a nap on company time. You have been the most reliable. Is all this true?" "Yeah," Barry said in a hazy way. "It's true." "The police said they drove by and they found you sleeping in the car," Ross continued. I don't know what happened," Barry also went on. "Well, I do, Mr. Albert," Ross kept barking. "Barry, it's 11:30 p.m. Why don't you go home? Todd will be there in 30 minutes. I'm excusing you. You should leave now. I'm going to call you tomorrow afternoon around 1 p.m., and we need to talk then." "Okay, Ross. Sure thing," Barry agreed. "Now go home and get some sleep on your own time. And when you do your time card this week, you will be deducting 2 hours. You aren't getting paid for the time that you didn't work, and you aren't getting paid for the time when you were napping. Got it?" The phone disconnected. How could Barry have fallen asleep? How could he have done that? He had never fallen asleep on the job. All he did was drink caffeine. Barry felt awful. He cared about being a watchman. He cared about doing the job well. Also, he wondered, why had he had such a vivid dream? It was one of those dreams where certain elements still felt real. Of course, certain ones also felt as if they were from a type of astral plane. The day had been soured. It had started out with getting the chocolate card from Blaze, making love to Joanna, and almost solving the cryptogram puzzle from the White Horse Killer. Now Barry felt like a dolt. He drove the whole way back to the Birch Bark Motel feeling low, and when he arrived, the lights were out. There was no sign of Joanna. The idea of coming home to Joe had been nothing but a fantasy. Barry knocked on the door and no one answered. He had given Joanna the key. He knocked again. Then he felt something abnormal as he stood on the doormat, in front of room 8703. Barry knelt down and found the motel key wrapped in a piece of paper. Even in the dream, Joanna and Barry were struck by a barrage of rocks from someone threatening them. They took cover in the bathroom, and they solved the taunting message, one that would drive fear and chills into the heart of anyone who read and knew the meanings. But they were still together. Barry did not come home to Joanna that night. Instead, he was sent home early by his boss for a disciplinary infraction, and all he had was a piece of paper that read, "I'm sorry, Barry." Barry entered the motel room. He turned on the lights, and it had been as if Joanna had never existed. He was thankful that he didn't have to see the motel windows shattered into 1,000 pieces, like the way they were in his dream, but he felt as if his heart weighed a kiloton. Joanna had taken the chocolate card and left. He knew it. It wasn't even his money. It was the money that had been created out of thin air, according to Blaze. But Barry still felt a small type of rage coming over him. The type of rage where you are not shouting, but when your body feels both hot and cold at the same time, and your fingertips turn pale. Chapter 24. Barry collided with the cool white pillow of the motel bed. He didn't know which was worse, having 7 or 8 rocks, with bizarre yet mysterious messages, thrown through the window, or having Joanna take the money and run. Even though Joanna had disappeared with the $500 chocolate card, Barry still missed her. He didn't know if it was care or just material desire, but he missed Joe. Something caught his eye. Something didn't seem right. Barry had spent 2 years in room 8703. He knew when something was different. He could still see every detail from that vivid dream in his memory of Joanna and the cooking pot and the banana rice and the bags by the door. But this wasn't dreamland anymore. This was gazing upon something all too real. Barry rose from the bed. He walked toward the wastebasket with the small black trash bag. There was a pink and purple image that had captured his attention. He pulled out the item, which was a small box with several empty silver casings, the kind for over-the-counter medicine and tablets. "Benadryl?" Barry muttered aloud. He read over the label, "Antihistamines." Barry felt the silver casings. There were 3 capsules that had been taken out. It was a small, cheap box, but it wasn't Barry's. Barry hadn't used antihistamines in years, but he remembered that even one would knock him out and make him fall asleep. "Oh no, Joanna," Barry thought silently. "Please, no." Barry dropped the Benadryl package back into the wastebasket. He sat down on the edge of the bed, and he stared at the wall in the darkness of his motel room. He had never fallen asleep on the job before, but there he was tonight. He might even be fired in the morning. It couldn't have been Joanna. They had made love before he had gone to work. She had been enthusiastic about trying to solve the cryptogram puzzle. She held him close after Manny and Trista had left and said, "Call me Joe." Barry tried to race into a world of possibilities. The only explanation that Barry could think of was Joanna had crushed up the antihistamine pills and put them in one of his drinks. He hadn't bought the Diet Cola until he was on his way to work, but the iced coffee had already been in the fridge. Perhaps when he had gone to the bathroom or taken a shower, She had put it in his drink. He picked up the box again from the wastebasket. There were capsules, the ones that didn't even need to be crushed. She could have opened them and poured the powdered antihistamine into the iced coffee. It seemed quite odd that Barry hadn't noticed something tasting odd, but what other explanation was there? Barry moved his fingers around in the black plastic trash bag. He couldn't find the capsule casings. That gave him a small amount of hope that it had not been Joanna that had drugged him. Perhaps this was something she had bought at the store, and he had not noticed. They had gone to the gas station store together, and no matter what, over the last 2 days they had not been in complete contact. That night Barry did not sleep at all. He remained in bed, not listening to anything, not turning on the TV, not glancing at his phone. All Barry could think about was Joanna, and how he craved for her touch, to see her smile in a twisted way. He wanted Joanna back, and he did not want to believe that it was true. The night turned into day, and Barry finally turned on the TV. He wasn't watching the news, but he felt comfort in hearing the sound of broadcasters. At last came the call from Ross Barrister. "Hello?" Barry said into the phone as he answered. "Good afternoon," Ross replied. Barry glanced at the phone, and it was 12:01, earlier than he expected, but he was glad to get the phone call with Ross over and done with as soon as possible. "So, Barry, do you want me to talk up to you first, or do you want to just tell me what happened last night?" Ross asked. "I slipped up," Barry accepted. "I made a mistake. I was wrong. I'm sorry." Yeah, Ross interjected roughly. "Look, Barry, you fell asleep on the job. You don't have to make it sound like it's the end of the world. I would tell you that those officers were laughing at you, and that was punishment enough. But I can't. I have a supervisor just like I'm your supervisor. Look, here's the deal. If you ever do it again, I'm gonna have to let you go. You've been with us for 2 years. These things happen, but remember, that one guy from India, or where was it? Bangladesh, Barry informed him. Yeah, he fell asleep on the job, too," Ross went on. "We had to let him go because he had only been with us for like 3 weeks or a month or something, and it was during the daytime. I forget how long he was with us exactly. Maybe it was just over a month, but it doesn't matter. That's the way the company cuts back on these things. That's why they got rid of the 8 to 4 shift. Take this as a single and final warning. I don't like doing this. I don't like saying it. But rules are rules." "I really appreciate this," said Barry. "I'm sorry again." Yeah, Ross kept going. "Look, I can only imagine it must be a simple job, it must be a boring job, but you aren't paid to sleep. I think you get the message." "I do," Barry agreed flatly. "Any report on when the warehouse is going to open?" "Nope," Ross returned. "They just keep renewing you security guys. Sometimes I talk to someone from management, maybe like once a month. Sometimes I talk to them about once a week even. And sometimes they just don't respond at all. They just keep going on with the security measures. They say just keep it up with the security guys, and you and Todd have been excellent. You two guys are awesome. The guys on the weekend have been less than excellent, but, well, I'm not going to get into that now with you. You got the message. Stay alert, and we expect you to be out there 4 to 12. Deal?" "It's a deal," Barry agreed, in the same flat tone. "You have a good rest of your afternoon, Barry," said Ross. "Thanks. You too. Bye," Barry replied. He ended the call, and he thought that he would be happier to still have a job. Normally he dreaded Ross Barrister's endless ramblings. He used to tell himself that a one-sentence message did not have to take 5 minutes to deliver, but today he didn't mind. He still had a job, and he still had rent to pay. The housekeeping service from the Birch Bark would come by soon, and they would clean up. But now that work was taken care of, Barry began thinking about Joanna again. But not only about Joe, also about the White Horse Killer. Why had Joanna left in such a way? Perhaps she couldn't deal with the monotone humdrum lifestyle in which Barry lived, but at the same time, where did she go? Perhaps back to Manny and Trista. The possibility always existed. Maybe the whole message was to get Barry to give her some money. Yeah, maybe that was her angle. She would get some money from a guy, tell him she needed to buy new clothes and feminine stuff, and he would give her something like a chocolate card. Then she'd moved back to Manny Inman. Barry felt so foolish. They had been together. He had held Joanna in his arms so many times. Was that all fake? Was all of that an act to get $500 on a gift card out of him? Ridiculous, Barry thought silently. However, Joanna had the money and he did not. Even at his low point, Barry still found some evil delight in knowing that it was from Blaze. He smirked to himself as he thought it over, but there was a bigger question to answer. What was the connection to Joanna and the White Horse Killer? If Golly Gallus hadn't been the killer, but Manny and Trista said that he was guilty, what really happened? Either Joanna was a world-class actress, or she did not believe what was going on. Was she indeed a pawn of Manny Inman and Trista Richards? As he looked back over all he knew of them, Manny and Trista shared a connection. Joanna meant nothing to them, or so Barry hypothesized anyway. Joanna had been duped by them for a little, and the true connections needed to be uncovered. Chapter 25. Another day had turned into night. Barry had been out at the warehouse, continuing onward with work like nothing had happened. No Joanna, no visits from the police, no presence of Manny Inman. He still talked to Warren about the White Horse Killer, but by the end of the shift, all Barry wanted to do was sulk. Todd had come by at midnight to take over Barry's shift, and he had a good laugh at Barry for sleeping in the car. Barry could have told him that he had been drugged with antihistamines, but for some reason it was just easier to leave that type of material out of the conversation. On nights like that, Barry had wished that he would never see Todd again. All the mockery, all the cheap shots. Barry came back home and decided to go to bed early. He sat on the bed looking at his phone when another pounding came on the door. "Barry!" a familiar voice called. "Joanna?" Barry called back. Barry didn't know what to feel. Some way, somehow, he had known that he had not seen the end of Joanna. He rushed over to the door and opened it. There was Joanna, wearing the same white shirt and shorts as she always wore, except this time she was covered in blood. The expression on Barry's face went from one of mixed emotion to a single solitary feeling. He became consumed with horror at the sight of Joanna in the blood-covered patches on her t-shirt. There was a large cut above her eyebrow, and there appeared to be long slashes across both of her arms. Joanna slipped into the room and shut the door. "Barry, please," she pleaded. "You have to help me." "Joanna, what's going on?" he begged. "You have to help me," she kept pleading. "Slow down, Joanna," he ordered. "Please, what's happening?" "Just let me stay here," Joanna insisted. "I'll stay in the bathroom. I'll be gone in the morning if you want. Just let me stay here for the night, please, Barry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." He could see it in her eyes. She wanted to hug him, and he wanted to hold her, but she was dripping with blood. "Joanna, you need to go to a hospital," Barry decided. "You need stitches." No hospital," Joanna declined frantically. "I just need a shower. I'm so sorry, Barry. Please don't call anyone, please. I'm so sorry." "Who did this to you?" Barry asked at last. "I don't know, Barry," she answered. "That's the truth, I swear. They took the money. They took the card that you gave me. It's gone. I'm so sorry. They took the card. They cut me with a knife. They punched me in the head. They... Her whimpers and frantic breathing turned into cries. She buried her face in her hands and collapsed on the floor. "Please, Barry," she writhed. "Just let me stay here until the morning. Please, I'm so sorry." "Joanna," he started. "Joanna, I don't care about the money. It was just a gift card. Let's get into the bathroom." He wanted to help Joanna up, but he didn't know if he would exacerbate one of her wounds and make the injury worse. Joanna was mobile and hopped up on her own. Once they moved into the bathroom, Barry closed the door behind them and turned on the light. In the glow of the fluorescence, Barry could see all the blood much more clearly. While it did appear that the wounds were superficial, he still wanted her to see a doctor. "Joanna, what's going on?" he pressed. I don't know, Barry, I don't know," she kept saying. "Joanna, you do know," he challenged her. If you're going to stay here, you have to tell me everything. Who attacked you?" "I told you, 2 men," she said. "I don't know who they were. That's the truth. Oh, Barry, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry." "Joe, I don't care about the money," Barry almost shouted, but was careful to keep his voice down. "No," she cried. "I'm sorry I put the Benadryl in your coffee. I put it in the iced coffee. They told me I had to. They told me I had to. Barry, I'm so sorry." Barry took a step back. In the haste of seeing Joanna covered in blood, he had forgotten to interrogate her about drugging him. "Why?" he murmured. "Why?" "Manny and Trista," she revealed. "They said I had to. They said I needed to. They didn't say why. They just said I had to. They said I had to." "You were with me all day," Barry pointed out. "When did you talk to Manny and Trista?" "Before I even met you," she said. "It was all planned all along. They said I had to do it. Something bad would happen if I didn't do it. It was all planned the whole time. I'm so sorry." Barry's lips formed into a flat, lifeless expression. "You almost got me fired," he shouted. "I passed out at the job." I know," Joanna kept going. Barry began to understand now. Joanna was following Manny's orders, but they were the ramblings of a babbling kook. Manny Inman wasn't a genius. He was nothing more than a buffoon who talked in circles. Joanna had been deceived, but in many ways so had Barry. "Take a shower," Barry directed her. "You can take a shower, there's some alcohol in the medicine cabinet, then get out." "Barry, please." "Then get out." "Barry, no," Joanna cried heavily. "It's either that or I call the police," Barry bargained with her. Joanna cried intensely on the floor. Whimpers and wails. Barry was sick of her games, and playing along with them. For a little bit he felt he was attracted to Joanna, but now he wanted nothing more for her to leave. Attraction was a powerful thing to break, though. "It's Trista," she coughed out at last. "What?" Barry asked. "What about Trista?" He looked down at Joanna as she was crying on the bathroom floor. "Hail Satan," she said. Chapter 26. "It's Trista," said Joanna again. "She's in the Church of Satan." "Church of Satan?" Barry almost exclaimed. Joanna, what are you talking about?" "No, I didn't mean that," she mumbled frantically. "It's not the Church of Satan. It's some type of satanic Luciferian. I don't even know the name of it. She said that word Luciferian a few times. I saw the drawing in her notebook. Symbols. I once asked her." Joanna started breathing heavily. Her face fell forward and was buried in her hands. "Joanna, what are you—" Barry paused. "Every day I'm hearing some kind of new crap. It's always a new problem, isn't it? You run away from Philadelphia. You find this nut job, Manny Inman. You find this serial killer, Robert Gallus. You find this devil worshipper, Trista Richards. Joanna, just take your shower and get out." No, she pouted. "Barry, don't you say you said it before. Golly Gallus didn't commit those murders, I told you, and Manny is not a nut job. You can't see it now, but he knows what he's doing. He's brilliant. He knows what's going on." "No, he doesn't," Barry argued. "He is a babbling kook who talks in circles." "That's not it, Barry," Joanna defended. "Yes, it is," he said. "He is a kook. Was that too old-fashioned of a word for you? Would you prefer if I call him a crackpot or a rambling whack job? You can call him whatever you want, but you will not convince me that he is a genius." Joanna looked saddened, almost but not quite broken. "As for Trista," Barry continued, "satanic, Luciferian, whatever, leave me out of this. I don't even want to know." "No, Barry," Joanna fizzled. "They're all over the country." "What?" he asked. "This Luciferian or satanic thing, it's like a network. That's all I know. I'm being honest. That's all I know. Trista knows people in this network. I think they're the ones who beat me up tonight." Barry paused again. He didn't know what to say. Part of him felt unendingly frustrated with the chaos that Joanna had brought into his life. The other part felt as if he were trying to resist suspicions. The temptation existed. He wanted to know exactly what was going on with the situation. He wanted to know, from the beginning, Barry had suspected that Manny Inman knew what was truly happening behind the scenes, or even if he knew something, he was a harmless, incoherent mess. It was Trista Richards that was the key to solving everything. From the first moment when Joanna said that Manny was a genius, Barry developed that suspicion. If Manny wasn't the linchpin or the keystone, it was possible that Trista either was, or that she was acting as a liaison for something else. The people from this satanic network or whatever. That could have been the answer. The White Horse Killer. Barry's whole body began to tense. Was he on the verge of solving this? In all seriousness, Joanna and Barry were still solving the case together, even though she lay on the floor in a pool of her own blood and tears. The group could have committed the murders and mailed the letters. Then Trista arranged for Golly Gallus to take the fall. Why? Barry was still uncertain, but he remembered that he had never heard Gallus say a single word. He had seen him from a distance, and he had observed him next to Manny Inman on the day that he had met Joanna for the first time at the warehouse. But Golly was always the tall, silent figure waiting beside someone. Either this was a solution, or perhaps Manny Inman's verbal chaos had some effect on the situation. Barry could still see why Joanna insisted that he was a genius. "Why don't you just take your shower, Joanna?" Barry advised her. "Okay," she murmured. "As I said, there's some stuff in the medicine cabinet." "Yeah," she acknowledged. Barry exited the room. The knowledge that was before him was more powerful than any form of caffeine. He sat down on the bed, thinking about the situation. It all began to make sense, except for the fact that Joanna had told him that there was a satanic cult that was running around the country, possibly killing people. Who were they? And who held the key to their identity other than Trista Richards? About 30 minutes later, Joanna emerged from the shower, wearing that white towel wrapped around her body again. The first time that Barry had seen her like that, he had thought she looked like an angel that had wanted to roll in the sheets with him for a night. Now, as he gazed upon Joanna, in her sad, dejected state, he still wanted to hold her, but he knew that it was the wrong choice. Joanna had several band-aids on her, and Barry could smell the rubbing alcohol. "Look, Barry," she began. "Stop it," Barry directed her. "But—" "I said stop it," Barry almost barked. "I have been listening to you long enough. You've been running around here long enough, and I am done with this game." "It's not a game," she snapped. "I'm done with you," he snapped back. "Your weird friends, the White Horse Killer, now your satanic Luciferian networks, they aren't mine," she grumbled. "I let you shower," Barry went on. "I let you use the bathroom and the band-aids. Now, you need to leave." "But—" "Get out, Joanna," Barry ordered. "You should go to a hospital. Why don't you go to a hospital?" "No," she sounded. Barry noticed the intensity, but he could tell that the cuts on her arm were much more severe than what a band-aid could fix. "Then get out," Barry ordered. "Barry, please." "Then get out," he repeated. "I don't want to say it again." Barry felt sour, and he wanted nothing more than to give Joanna a hug and see that beautiful bright smile come back into her. But ever since she had gotten into his car, he had seen nothing but escalating trouble. "I'll go," Joanna said. "But Barry, my t-shirt is covered in blood. Do you have a shirt I can borrow?" "Borrow?" he questioned. "Or have?" She held back her tears. "Yeah, I do." Barry got off the bed and walked to the small dresser near the mini-fridge, and he pulled out a gray t-shirt with black letters. "It has Fat Man written on it," Joanna remarked in an even more saddening way. "Fat is spelled P-H-A-T, Joanna acknowledged. "Warren gave it to me as a gag gift about 4 years ago," he explained. "I never wear it." "Do you have anything else?" she asked. "No. Now get dressed and get out of here," Barry fought back. She always has to demand something more, Barry thought silently. After 5 minutes, Barry saw Joanna emerge from the towel. Her band-aids over the deep wounds showed vividly. "I hope you're not offended that I turned the T-shirt inside out," she said. "Why would I be offended?" Barry asked back. "You could have done that earlier," she pointed out. "Then you could have worn it more often." Barry felt his blood get hot, and he wasn't sure why that remark was causing it. "It must have been waiting for you," he said. "Okay, well, goodbye, Barry," Joanna muttered in a matter-of-fact tone. "Goodbye, Joe," he returned. "Yeah, goodbye," she concluded. That was the last thing Barry heard from her as she marched toward the door. She opened it, slipped out, and closed it gently behind her. Barry looked at Joanna through the blinds, and noticed that she was walking away in blood-stained shorts. Barry grabbed his smartphone and made a quick call to 911. 911, what's your emergency? The female dispatcher asked. I'm staying at the Birch Bark Motel in Williamsport, and some girl is walking around in the parking lot here. She is covered in blood, like on her arms and legs and even her face. I think she needs an ambulance.